My night was pretty chill up until Desmond King and Darius Rush decided to make a little switch here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they decided, well, we don't want you anymore. We're going to go young. We're going to go new. Former or veteran corner, I guess not former Pittsburgh Steeler at this point, but current Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Desmond King is reportedly on the trade block. They will look to move him as quickly as possible, but if they could not find a trade partner, they plan to release the 28-year-old. He played one defensive snap since signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the beginning of the season. A name that, I mean, me and you, we made a big fuss about this. I made a real big fuss about this because, for one, I thought it made a ton of sense. I still think it made a ton of sense. Just didn't seem to work out in their favor. He never really got comfortable, I guess. They decide now they're going something new. They add or reportedly add Darius Rush off of the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad, a former fifth-round pick for the Indianapolis Colts, still a rookie in the NFL. Let's start with King. Either a trade or a release is probably going to happen today by like 4 o'clock. I mean, we were both surprised. I don't think that's even a question. What were your thoughts when you saw the news?
Well, it was a little disappointing, right? I mean, like you said, we both were pretty excited about the addition of Desmond King. Thought he fit a position in need, thought he was a talented player, and he just didn't, excuse me, just didn't work out for whatever reason. Man, his practices must have been rough. That one defensive snap was not necessarily what you wanted, but yeah, his practices must have not been very impressive. Now that it looks like they're going a little bit younger, so
yeah,
I guess it makes sense in that area. It's just, man, it's disappointing. Like I just had such high expectations for Desmond King. I know he was in a crowded room, but I just thought that group needed someone like that and needed another reliable guy that you could turn to if something went wrong, if there was some kind of emergency. And it's a little concerning that he wasn't that guy. Especially because I don't know if Darius Rush is
that guy?
Is a sure thing at this point. It seems like a talented player again, young guy that you can maybe work with, but it's just I think overall just disappointing that Desmond King didn't work out.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you're coming off of 5 interceptions in the last 2 seasons. You're a starter in Houston. You signed with Pittsburgh. It's a big fuss. Nothing the first couple of weeks of the season. Finally get a helmet against the Houston Texans, your former team, which is a big deal. Doesn't touch the field on defense. Just takes, I think, 1, maybe 2 kick returns. Houston scored like 7 touchdowns, so like 6, 7 kick returns. Didn't do much with those. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, this guy's got to make some moves on defense, but that's going to happen eventually. The Steelers' corners are struggling. Meanwhile, there's no relief inside or outside, and you're thinking, okay, Desmond King could sub in there, play the nickel a little bit, work with Chandon Sullivan. Chandon Sullivan's an outside capable guy if they got to bounce him outside. He's listed as the starter against the Baltimore Ravens, or the co-starter, I guess, and plays 1 defensive snap, and now he's gone. It's a very strange situation for the Steelers. What I'm worried about here, and I don't know what went into the call, or I guess they're trying to go young, and I understand that to a degree. What I'm worried about is this going to turn into another Ahkello Witherspoon situation, where you gave up on a guy that a lot of people saw talent in, that you saw talent in, and you said, hey, you're not clicking fast enough. This isn't working out as soon as we wanted it to, or as swiftly as we wanted it to, and we're going to move on. And now Desmond King's going to end up somewhere else, and he's going to be balling out like Ahkello Witherspoon's balling out in L.A. right now, and now you missed out on an opportunity. Meanwhile, your corners are still very much so struggling. I think that's definitely a concern of mine. Do you think they find a trade partner by 4 o'clock? I mean, I feel like that's what they got to make the move, unless they're going to wait a day on Darius Rush, but you can't sign Darius Rush until you get rid of Desmond King, unless you cut somebody else. So I would imagine King's the guy that goes. Do you think a trade happens before 4 p.m.?
I'd have to imagine one does. I mean,
Yeah.
I still think, like you said, people will still see talent in Desmond King. I think there's definitely something there. And cornerback feels like a position that you can that basically every team needs depth at. I mean,
Yes.
It's not something you can just have, a top 2 or 3 and feel good with. Like Desmond King, I think is still. I don't know. I think still capable of being a really, really like maybe not a
Yeah,
starter. I think he actually, I
I
take
think
it.
he could be.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Why would I temper that? I think he can be a starter in this league. And I think there are plenty of teams that could use that. So I think a trade probably will get done by 4 o'clock if I had to predict. Maybe not for the value that you thought you could have gotten, if you would. He's probably not as valuable as when he first arrived in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
But I still think there's plenty of value there. And the Steelers would clearly be happy to flip him for whatever they can get.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you could get anything, that's at that point it's better than just cutting them and moving on, and you get zero compensation for them. But I don't know. I still think I think it's still weird. But I agree with you. I think that at 28 years old, he'll turn 29 by the end of the season, coming off of 3 seasons. I think 2 in Houston, where he started a total of 25 out of 33 games. I mean, you got to remember this guy's a former All-Pro in the NFL. Like he's done some things, but he's also been a couple of places at this point. I think somebody's calling, and the only reason that they wouldn't call is because they just know that he's going to get released, and you might as well just go pick him up. I think that's where things get like complicated. Like it'd be one thing if you made the decision, hey, we're gonna either trade or release you by the end of the day, but then you just let Darius Rush chill until tomorrow afternoon, and then you went, okay, let's go get him now. Now you kind of put yourself in a situation where all 31 other teams are like, why would we make a move when this guy's going to hit the open market? But at the same time, if you want him, if you want Desmond King, go get Desmond King. Don't wait on it. So I could see it happening. It happens all the time. Frank Clark isn't one of them. He got released, but Randy Gregory is a name that he was gone. Now he's in San Francisco. That was a weird trade situation. I think that could happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know. What's trade comp? It's a 6th round pick. You think a 6th rounder for?
That's what I'm saying. If you're a team looking to go get Desmond King,
yeah,
I don't think it's worth if you need a corner like that. I don't think it's worth waiting around for him to hit the open market, because then you're competing with everyone else in the league.
Yeah,
I think it would be much more valuable to go give up whatever light draft compensation you have to, in order to lock a guy up that you need.
Yeah, I agree. Could see it happening by 4 o'clock. Meanwhile, Darius Rush will be here, assumingly the same time that Desmond King finds a new home. A former 5th round pick for the Indianapolis Colts was a surprise cut at the end of the preseason when they finalized their 53-man roster. Ended up in Kansas City, was there for a couple of weeks, then got released or got waived, got signed back to their practice squad, spent all season from there. He's a 6'2", 195 corner out of South Carolina. Very athletic, very lengthy. He had 2 interceptions his senior season with the Gamecocks, an interception the season before, 2 tackles for loss, which is pretty impressive, and 7 pass deflections as a senior. I mean, the Steelers brought him in for a pre-draft visit. They obviously saw something. Is this he's got to be here for the next 4 weeks minimum. We're already surprised by the move, but does it have any upside? Like, is it a move that you could look at and say, okay, well, maybe they see something just because they're going younger?
Well, I think there's certainly upside. I mean, anytime you sign a kid who's this young, fresh out of the draft, who has that kind of athleticism and speed and length, there's always going to be upside. But, I think this also kind of reflects that they have a lot of faith in Joey Porter. That's not surprising. Anyone who's watched this team over the past couple of weeks knows that he's been getting a lot more time, a lot more reps. He's been a bigger and bigger part of the defense. But this is just, I think, another, both a public vote of confidence and then just kind of through the natural way that they're going to organize their team, just an indicator that tells me they really believe in him as not just a third corner, but a backup option, but as someone who can really work his way towards starter reps. So I think that's an encouraging thing. I mean, in addition to just what you see on the field, the fact that this organization sees enough off the field and practices, things like that, to really believe that Joey Porter is the guy moving forward. I think that's my bigger takeaway from the fact that they are moving on from Desmond King and turn into Darius Rush as maybe one of their other options.
Do you think Darius Rush is a guy that could actually play some snaps for Pittsburgh over the next? I mean, for you got to think like Desmond King couldn't get on the field for more than a snap in 5 games. How you think Darius Rush is going to come in here, learn a defense, step? I mean, it took Akella Witherspoon like 8 weeks before this guy stepped on a field, did some stuff, and then the next season he was hurt, and you know, we know the story there. But I mean, I don't think I have expectations that he's even going to play in these 4 games. I think he's just going to be chilling. So is this a move? Is it, in my eyes, a little bit, and I don't know how much I think it's a good, like, hey, this is a good shot in the dark. You might as well try it out if we see an opportunity there and we like this guy. And the Steelers might have saw something. They brought him in for a pre-draft visit. So that, in my eyes, that says something. Like, that says, hey, look, if we see the talent in him. I see it more as a future move. A next season, we could walk into the year with Joey Porter Jr., Darius Rush, if he is worth any playing time. Corey Trice will be back, so we could work him in a little bit if need be. Patrick Peterson will still be here. Maybe we could go out and find another corner in the draft or in free agency. And we have the building blocks to spark something with a bunch of young players and some upcoming talent. I mean, a 5th-round pick, the expectations there, like at some point you should earn a starting job in the NFL, or at least have an opportunity to. Maybe the Steelers see that as just like a, you know, maybe not this year, he doesn't add any value, but next year and the years after, we'd rather have our hands on him and him be familiar with our team than, you know, what we have now. And Desmond King's he's not a part of the future. He's just a part of right now, and we didn't really need him.
Yeah, I absolutely think that. I think that's a good point, and I think it's definitely a forward-facing move. I think you've got this year pretty settled. So just bringing in some more competition, bringing in some more depth, some young depth, just to see. It's a little bit of a shot in the dark, but I also think that they are going to end up hanging on to him for a little bit and just keeping him kind of in the Rolodex, I guess, just so they have a contact and can keep him current with this team, and maybe, like you said, look at next year and look at him as an option for next year. Because, like, you know, like you said, this year, when he's jumping on this moving train, to use a Tomlinism, like it's moving pretty fast and it's pretty far along. It's just going to be hard to catch up. So when you bring a guy like that in at this point, it's always going to be kind of forward facing and looking towards the future instead of, oh yeah, Darius Rush is going to be starting for us in week 12 or whatever against, I don't even know who they play, but
I have no idea. But yeah, I agree. I think that's, you know, and in that thinking, I agree with it. I don't mind the move, especially because Desmond King wasn't doing anything, and I think that you might as well plan for the future because that's a huge need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And kind of like, you know, like think about it like this: like say Kenny doesn't work out, or say you need an offensive lineman, or you know, say you're sitting at a position in the NFL draft next year where you could get a corner, or you could get a center, you know, or you could get an inside linebacker, or, you know, you could fill another position in need. Okay, cool. We already have options at corner. They might not be the best options, but we have options, and Joey Porter Jr. could lead the way. I think that's a good security blanket for next offseason if it works out, you know.
Just
and this
like
guy,
delayed 5th-round pick, basically.
Exactly. This guy ran a 4.36, by the way, at the combine. So worst case scenario, man. At some point they had Kalen Barnes, which last year was the dude who ran like a 4.21 or something. So, you know, just sign them all. Get some speed. Let them rock. I like it. I don't mind the move overall. We'll see what happens, but I wouldn't have much expectations for what Darius Rush is going to bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023.